Hey, podcast listeners. Today's episode is on how to become whole. And it is, like always, based in a true story, or at least a composite of true stories. The first is a woman I met last year who works at a psych ward. And I know this because she wanted to share with me that there's a lot of drama at her workplace. Now, I don't know what she meant exactly by the word drama. But psych wards, if you're not familiar, are where our society puts people who are on, let's say, a 48, 72-hour hold because they are at risk to themselves or others. They are maybe suicidal, maybe homicidal, but they're just in a place where they're not safe. And so a psych ward is someplace where they supposedly can be safe for a period of time. It's a container of sorts. So I don't know what she meant by the word drama. I imagine that what she meant was that they are people who maybe are loud at times and they express feelings of sadness by crying or anger by yelling. And it is true that many people, as you can imagine, who are in psych wards are in a lot of psychic pain and are often dysregulated, and they express their feelings. But labeling them as dramatic, as if their expression of emotions are simply attention seeking, tells me that maybe this woman is in the wrong line of work. But let's be honest, almost no one, including all the mental health professionals who work at these places, understands the level of psychic pain that the patients are actually in. Now, I might be an exception to that because I, even as a mental health professional myself, have spent time in a psych ward on the patient end of things because I myself had a suicide attempt and I was put on a 72-hour hold. And even though I can understand quite a bit of psychic pain, as you can imagine, I don't understand the level of pain that it takes for someone to experience psychosis. Now, psychosis is what we call people who have hallucinations or delusions. However, I do have a client who used to struggle with psychosis. She used to have hallucinations. And let me tell you, dear listener, I understand why. If I had the parents that she had, I would also have hallucinations. And, dear listener, so would you. It's not rocket science. So, this woman who I will call Laura, and she has given me permission to share her story on my podcast. She has now been free of her psychosis for 2 years, exactly when she cut off her mother. She not only needed therapy for her experience of abuse by her parents, but she also needed therapy for the abuse that she experienced in those psych wards that she had spent time in over the years. So when she went to stay in those psych wards, she thought she would finally have a safe place to feel her feelings, but no such luck. The nurses and doctors there treated her, along with the other patients, as if there was something defective with her. She witnessed how they treated a young teenage boy who was angry by holding him down and injecting a tranquilizer into his butt. He fought like mad, which they saw as proof of his defectiveness, and never thought that just maybe physically forcing him to disrobe as they did caused him to re-experience what he was living through at home. Laura quickly realized that while being hospitalized in a psych ward might make her safe from a razor, it wasn't a safe place to express or even feel her feelings. So she learned to hold it all inside even more, believing that she was just hopelessly sick, that she was the problematic one in her family. This pleased her mom, who reinforced this idea to everyone she knew, enjoying the attentive sympathy from being the mother of a, quote, sick daughter. Hallucinations and delusions, again, fall under the category of what we call psychosis, and people who have psychosis are called schizophrenic. The first part of that word schizo is what means to split. It is the same word as the word schism. And as much as we'd like to believe that we have nothing in common with schizophrenic people, it is simply not true. As a psychotherapist, I can say that all humans experience splitting at some level. It's just a matter of degree. How much? In psychology, a split can be referred to as what we call cognitive dissonance, which is having conflicting thoughts about an idea, or what we call ambivalence, which relates to having conflicting feelings about someone or something, including ourselves. Almost everyone experiences these type of inner conflicts, which cause us to split off parts of ourselves, such as our feelings of anger and hatred. We deceive ourselves and others by pretending we don't have internal fissures that keep us from being whole. A schizophrenic person is just like the rest of us, except they cannot successfully hide their splits because they are so profound. This is simply because the people that they are conflicted about, mainly their parents, are even more devouring than the rest of ours, and they receive less validation from others about their parents, and they often have less ability to escape the parents. When we aren't able to express our anger and hatred in healthy ways by creating boundaries for ourselves and trusting our feelings, our minds rupture in efforts to survive. When no one believes us and validates our feelings, we think we're the problem, which creates a schism within us. But there is nothing crazy about schizophrenia. It actually all makes perfect sense. Laura's hallucinations were visual representations of her mother, even though she did not know this at the time. She saw evil witches and dementors attempting to suck out her soul, waiting for her outside her windows. These images were her mind's attempt to communicate to her just how evil her mother was, to warn her to get away. Most people who work around this population find all of this too evocative because they refuse to acknowledge that monsters are real and are in denial of the monsters in their lives and their own ambivalence toward them. So they create an artificial schism between themselves, the quote, normal people, and them, the quote, sick ones, to keep themselves safe from the drama of their own feelings. This is not limited to a psych ward, unfortunately, as most people just are not honest with themselves and dissociate from their feelings. We call this denial. What fuels this is a mixture of fear and shame. The fear is one of being alone. Most people will do absolutely anything to not be alone, because when we are alone with ourselves, we are forced to feel our shame. But here's what we need to remember. Shame is a liar. Humans are designed to make mistakes and to learn from them. In fact, that is what humans do best. But shame does not allow for this. No human is all good or all bad, but shame tells us we are either one or the other, and there is no spectrum in between. Shame is the residue left over when we experience neglect, rejection, or emotional or real abandonment. It is most deposited during our childhood. That's because that's when we most lack objectivity. A child is unable to conclude that the lack of his mother's eye contact is a her problem because she has a personality disorder. Instead, the child naturally concludes the reason mom doesn't make eye contact with him is a him problem, that he just isn't enough, that he's just not worthy of much eye contact, which begets much shame. The only way to heal our internal splitting is to dislodge the shame, which requires taking time to revisit our childhood and question it. It necessitates a willingness to take our parents off the God throne and see them as they really are, warts and all, and to feel our feelings of anger and even hatred at them. But we don't need to communicate those feelings to them. No, this is for us. We also need to feel our anger at ourselves and repair our relationship with ourselves through a genuine apology, forgiveness, and a commitment to win back our own trust from here on out by no longer betraying ourselves. Shame exiles us from ourselves, so exiling shame is how we take back ourselves. As we do this, we find ourselves healing the inner fissures and becoming more and more whole. This is how every single one of us fights mental illness, as we participate in our own liberation from darkness and disorder. No one can do it for us. We must become the deliverer that we have been waiting for. So, dear listener, I want to invite you to please do an integration exercise, even if you have already done one on this podcast, which I hope you have. Please listen to the episode that I last did that has an integration exercise, which is called What Kills Empathy. And it is 5 episodes prior to this one today. It is the most powerful thing that we can do to dislodge shame and take back our true selves and heal those fissures. And it takes less than 5 minutes. It is time to become whole, and it is not a moment too late. Let's heal our schisms, large and small. Thank you for listening today.